Here we go. Up into the air, into the end zone, and incomplete. Lazard had a shot. And now the other officials saying touchdown.
Pittman just 3 targets, 1 catch. Here they come. Flacco to the end zone. It is caught. Jump ball. Pittman. Touchdown.
Second down and 3. They'll run it again. Oh, big C. Montgomery to the end zone. Stays on his feet and he's in for the touchdown. What a run.
Football fans, week 6 is in the books. We're on to week 7. Kenny C back here to break it all down with you with the top storylines. October football is in full effect. Cool, crisp air here in the Northeast, more specifically in New York. Perfect football weather. And before we get into it, tap the screen, hit subscribe. Very easy to do, very monumental for the channel. Now that we got that done, we got some Jets-Bills talk in an AFC East clash. We got some Cowboys panic meter. We got some rookies that made their debuts this past Sunday. Let's get into it. With the Jets and the Bills, the most obvious thing for everybody that was watching that game on primetime Monday night last night, I was in attendance at JetLife Stadium in East Rutherford with 3 of my really good friends. It was a blast, tailgated, the whole 9 yards. It was awesome. The finish, not awesome. The referees, for everybody watching the primetime Monday night football game between the Jets and the Bills, undeniable, the refs played too much of a factor in that game. 22 penalty calls, 11 penalties per side. Let's get this out of the way. The illegal shift penalty needs to be abolished from the NFL because it is by far the most egregious and most consistently called penalty that we have seen this year. Got to get it out. It's a stupid call. Get it out of the game. I don't need to say much more on that. But the penalties with regards to the holding and the pass interference, out of hand. The roughing the passer, there was 2 in this game. 1 that got called in favor of Aaron Rodgers. 1 that got called in favor of Josh Allen. Even Rodgers came out after the game and said, I don't care if I get fined. The call on me was the wrong call. It should not have been made. The call on Allen, Kinlaw more specifically, who committed the penalty, it shouldn't have been made. Defenders can't do anything in this day and age in the NFL. It's a rough and tough game. It's been that way for decades upon decades. A game that's built upon physicality and roughness. There's nothing you can do to fully eliminate that from the game. So the overprotection on quarterbacks leaves defenses vulnerable. What do you want the guy to do? You can't land on the quarterback. You can't hit the quarterback low. You can't hit the quarterback high. How do you expect a 250 to 350 pound linebacker or offensive line or defensive lineman to not land at least a little bit on the quarterback when they're running full speed trying to battle through offensive linemen? It's just not feasible. It was too much of a problem in this game. We'll get into it more specifically with regards to the game being on the line. In the third quarter, the Jets had the chance to take the lead 27-20 off a Braylon Allen rushing touchdown. It was called back due to a shoddy holding call, in my opinion, on Tyron Smith. Yes, he's struggled. He hasn't looked good in pass protection either. But Braylon Allen already broke the plane by the time the hold actually was taken into effect. Tyron Smith was holding after the fact. It was a stupid call, in my opinion. Nonetheless, that very same drive, Greg the Leg. The Jets, by the way, fall to this one 23-20. And Greg the Leg accounted for 6 points left out on that field with 2 doinks in that game. That's the difference between winning and losing right there. Those 6 points. You cannot have that from Zuerlein. I know Tyler Bass struggled as well. He missed a field goal and an extra point, so he left 4 points on the field. But even still, it's unexcusable for Greg Zuerlein and the Jets. Then the game-winning field goal for the Bills was the roughing the passer. The soft call on Kinlaw. I've never heard of this in my life. I've never heard of this in my life. Improper conversation with the official. That's what was called on Kinlaw on that very same drive. You can't even talk to the refs now. I mean, I don't know what Ken Law said, so I can't entirely defend him, but that was just the icing on the cake with the 22 total penalties that were called. That was brutal. The game, obviously penalties played a factor in the game, but you can't be 1 for 4 in the red zone and expect to get it done if you're the Jets. It was nice to see Todd Downing, though, in the wake of Hackett taking a backseat with an undisclosed role. Obviously, Saleh got fired. First the game for Ulbrich. I liked what Downing dialed up. He actually got the running backs implemented, i.e. Breece Hall. 8 carries for, I believe it was 113 yards. So that was nice. Overall, I liked the play call. A little bit of pre-snap motion mixed in there. Relying on running the football, not abandoning that completely, not having Rodgers throw 50 times a game. Aaron Rodgers, the king of the Hail Mary before the half. That was a hell of a thing to see, being that I'm a Packers fan at heart. I've seen many a Rodgers Hail Mary. This was a sick one to Lazard to cap off the half, to go into the half down by 3. It was awesome. It was epic. Garrett Wilson with the toe tap off the first touchdown for the Jets. Both wide receivers, Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard, first Jets wide receivers with 100-plus yards receiving each as a duo since 2017. And now into the big news. Unfortunate loss for the Jets, 2-4, huge game. You could have been tied for first with the Bills. Now they're 4-2, you're 2-4. You're struggling. You got to have a bounce back game against the Steelers. But doing this, what I mean by that, acquiring Davante Adams, in doing that, I should have said, will now elevate the Jets even more. They bring in Davante Adams, the disgruntled wide receiver, wanted out from Vegas, and he got it. For a third-round pick that can turn into a second-round pick, barring, I believe it's a performance thing with Davante Adams, it can turn into a second-rounder. But Davante is a New York Jet. The New York Packers, the Green Bay Jets, whatever you want to call them. You got Allen Lazard here. You got Raj here. You got Davante here. You had Hackett calling plays. You had Boyle last year as your backup. This really is now the Green Bay Jets or the New York Packers. Davante Adams, certified baller, 3-time All-Pro. This man, or a 3-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. Excuse me for that. Davante is a baller. You get him in here. Now he's the wide receiver 1, in my opinion. Garrett Wilson as a wide receiver 2 is mind-boggling to even think about. So now you got Lazard. Now you got Tay, Wilson, Lazard, and Mike Williams with Ruckert and Conklin. And the Jets offense looks scary with this. The offensive line, it still had problems. That has to improve. You got to have Rodgers. You got to give Rodgers time to throw the ball. He already throws the ball 2.35 seconds, but still, he's got a banged-up ankle. You can't be letting him continue to get banged up. So the line has to hold their own. But on paper, with the weapons that the Jets now have, another all-in move from Joe Douglas and the front office. You got to give it to them there. They're going all in. You lose a tough heartbreak game to the Bills on Monday night, and you go out next morning and you bring in Davante Adams. Everybody kind of knew it was coming, but they were able to pull it off. This is going to be epic. This is going to be electric, is a word that I like to use often. But this duo between Rodgers and Davante, having watched it for a decade now, a little less than a decade, has been epic. So this is going to be one hell of a duo in New York. And you could have the best 1-2 punch in the league in terms of wide receivers with Davante and Garrett Wilson. Eager to see how it plays out. And now for some rookies that made some debuts this past Sunday. Honorable mentions to 2 rookies that already made their starts to start the season in Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. Jaden Daniels in a loss to the Ravens tossed 2 tutties, 269 yards. And Caleb Williams in a nice win over the Jaguars, 4 touchdowns and an interception with 226 yards. The Bears may have solved their quarterback problem, which has plagued them for decades now. We shall see how the season progresses with Caleb Williams, but he certainly looks like he has all the intangibles, as does Jaden Daniels. As you all know, for people that consistently watch my channel, you know I'm very high on Jaden Daniels. But let's get into the rooks that made their start. Spencer Rattler, in the wake of Derek Carr going down and being out for at least the next 3 to 6 weeks, Spencer Rattler was forced to start against his division rival, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs end up crushing the Saints in this one, 51-27. But Rattler, he looked pretty solid in the first half. He looked good. 22 for 40, 243 yards, a touchdown and 2 picks is what he finished his day with. But he looked pretty composed in the pocket. He made some nice throws. And he faced some pressure because he was sacked 5 times in this game. So Todd Bowles definitely dialed up the pressure and came after Rattler. But in the first half, his offense puts up 27 points. They're up 27-24 at the end of the half. He throws a nice touchdown in the second quarter to Bo Means. It was also Means' first touchdown in the National Football League. Then they go into the second half, and Joe Woods' defense starts to fold. Baker Mayfield ends up tossing 4 touchdowns. And Chris Godwin and Baker do whatever the hell they want to the Saints defense, end up finishing with 51 points in that one. And the Saints don't get a single point in that entire second half. A couple picks from Rattler, like I said, in the first half. He kind of just misses his guy, overthrows him, goes right into the hands of the Bucs defender. And then in the second half, the ball was tipped and intercepted. So we'll have to see a lot more of a sample size from Rattler, but not the worst of debuts, especially when your offensive line isn't blocking for you the best and your defense is not able to stop a nosebleed in the second half. Looking at Drake Maye, 3rd overall pick out of North Carolina. Very highly touted prospect. I think the Patriots did it right in letting him sit for a while under Jacoby Brissett, but he finally gets his start in a loss to the Texans. Maye, I thought, made some really nice throws. I thought he stepped up in the pocket when facing pressure and made some really nice throws, i.e. 3rd and 3. He had a nice play to Antonio Gibson for a first down. Later on in the game, he had a 2nd and 8 in the third quarter where he was able to find Hunter Henry facing some pressure and then ends up capping that drive off with his second passing touchdown to Hunter Henry. In the first half for Drake Maye, his first touchdown was to Keyshawn Boutte, absolute dime in the bucket right before the half ended to give the Patriots some life. Bill Belichick gave him some high praise as well. Said that was a professional quarterback throw right there. And that Maye looked even better than Stroud is what Belichick thought. Maybe a little biased there, but Maye did look good, especially given the fact that the Patriots had their 6th different offensive line combo this season. That offensive line has not blocked worth a lick for the better part of this first half of the season. He gave up 4 sacks in this game. Maye is sacked 4 times, 3 by Will Anderson. He was an absolute game wrecker in this one. Maye also fumbled the football, but he finished the game with 3 touchdowns. His 3rd touchdown was to Demario Douglas, and it was pretty much across the middle, catch and run. Nice speed by Douglas to find pay dirt. But pretty good debut for Maye. He looks like he has all the intangibles. I liked how he stepped up in the pocket when facing pressure to go through his progression and find even his 5th read in Gibson as a check down. I thought he did a pretty solid job in his debut. And 3rd and final topic here to round out the Week 6 Roundup. Is it time to panic in Dallas? The Cowboys get crushed by the Lions 47-9. They fall to 3-3 on the season. Only the Giants are worse in that division. You got the Eagles and the Commanders really in contention for first place in the NFC East. I think it might be time to panic because your schedule doesn't get any easier from here. You got the 49ers, followed by the Falcons, followed by the Eagles, followed by the Texans, and you have at least 8 starters on defense that are injured. From Dan Quinn as the D coordinator to Mike Zimmer as the D coordinator, it's going to be very hard for a D coordinator to do his job and dial it up with his defense when he has a lot of his backups playing. You have Dexter Lawrence, who has been hurt. He's out for 4 to 8 weeks. You have Deron Bland, who's still not seen the field, 6 to 8 weeks with that foot. Eric Kendricks did not play against the Lions. Their veteran linebacker with a shoulder injury. They didn't have Kalen Carson, their cornerback. Micah Parsons has been out, missed the last couple games with an ankle injury. Marshawn Nealand. I mean, the list goes on and on. Offensively, you don't have Brandon Cooks. He's been out. So this is a banged up Cowboys team that is in a division in which the Eagles and the Commanders are probably better than them right now. On paper, especially given the injuries. Dak Prescott in this game as well. Let's get into the offensive side of things. Given the fact that he doesn't have Cooks, It's basically the Dak and CeeDee show, which teams are going to catch on to that. And obviously, CeeDee Lamb is no slouch. He's not easy to double, but teams are probably going to game plan more so for CeeDee. They don't really use the running backs like they should, Enrico Dattle and Ezekiel Elliott. That's kind of been the storyline for Dallas, even going into last season with still Pollard in Dallas. They didn't really utilize him all that well, I thought. And you have a pretty one-dimensional Cowboys offense with the Dak to CeeDee connection. Tolbert has shown flashes. Jaden Tolbert, I like what he's got. He's got some strong hands. He had a nice catch in the game against the Lions. If he can step up, he's pretty solid. He's a third year. Same thing for Kevontae Turpin. He's been kind of quiet the last couple of weeks. And then Jake Ferguson, 0 touchdowns this year, and he's usually Dak Prescott's red zone threat. 0 touchdowns outside of 94 yards that I think he had against the Ravens. He hasn't really had the best of seasons either. So they kind of just look discombobulated on both sides of the ball. Mike McCarthy definitely on the hottest of seats right now. I would not be surprised if he got canned by Jerry by the season's end. Since 2020, they had 3 12-win seasons, and McCarthy is, I think, 1-3 or 1-4 in the playoffs. 1-3, I believe. That's not going to get it done, especially for a Dallas team that's been starving for playoff success for the better half of the last 2 decades. So I think it might be time to panic in Dallas. Let me know your guys' thoughts. I know my boy Jay is a big Cowboys fan. I'd be eager to see what his thoughts are in the comments section. All you Cowboys fans, let me know what you guys think. And NFL fans alike, on any of the 3 topics I touched on, let me know what you think. If you watch this video to the end, drop a little emoji of a football in the comments section just to show me that you watched this video till the end. But I want you guys all to stick around for more content. Gonna have some Packers content coming out for this week. And then next week, after week 7 concludes, we'll be right back here, baby. Keep it locked on the Kenny C Show.